Two, one. We are rolling. We've got a pod for you this week, Strange Crew. Holy frig, we are stoked.
We are so excited to bring a new friend of ours that we just had the pleasure of meeting by chance when we were down in Las Vegas a few weeks back, checking out some shows.
I think I met you at Bible study.
The
Yes,
Bible study,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, that's it.
Vacation Bible School.
Vacation Bible School, yeah. And it turns out that he is an incredibly talented musician and actor, and just all around like hilarious and awesome person in his own right. Greg Snyder, welcome to the Strange Cruise podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. We had such a pleasure meeting you and hanging out and like getting to know more about like your work and having a little bit more than the rest of our audience might know a little bit about you. Made it very cool for us to kind of shoot the shit and hang out. So I'm really excited.
If I can clarify one thing to start out.
Oh.
He has left.
Yeah, there you go. Next to my name, it's spelled Greg. In fact, my professional name is Ggreg.
I was hearing that, like in your email. I was like, GG.
Yeah, it's come out as, it looks like Greg, but that's not how I pronounce it. I just say Greg. So assume one of the G's is a silent prayer.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Or it could be something really badass like G.G. Allen or something like that. G.G. Snyder. That sounds pretty
part of it is that if you go on to like Spotify, you'll find my music, but you'll also find at least one other Greg Snyder, sometimes two. And I actually was in Philadelphia, so I went to see the other guy play. He's a jazz guitarist. And
that's awesome.
He knew who I was from the same thing. He had looked himself up on Spotify, found an alt country artist.
That is hilarious. That's amazing. So Greg, I guess to start things off, it's a Strange Grooves podcast. So let's talk a little bit about yourself and sort of your earliest memories with music. What did you grow up listening to?
Well, I'm from Northern California, and we do have a bit of a musical history there. I believe you were there seeing one of our most iconic bands.
Yeah.
What's Left of the Grateful Dead. But I'm actually from San Jose, which has very little musical history. Basically, we have the Doobie Brothers and a few others. That's about it from San Jose.
Well, you have also Dionne Warwick. Do you know the way to San Jose? That's a hit. You guys,
No, I'm surprised you know that song. But
I love that song. I love Dionne Warwick. She's queen.
And I love how weird it was when years later people started moving from San Jose down to LA because they thought that was less crowded, more affordable. So it's a reversal of what the song was talking about. But that is in fact exactly what my parents did. They're both from LA. And they did the migration up to San Jose, just like people are doing in that song. But I'm from San Jose, and my first music, I got to say it was school choir, but it was quite traumatic because in 5th grade, when I really wanted to be in the choir, well, puberty hit a little early. And while everybody else was going, I do remember some of the songs like, So Vivant, so. Our choir teacher was Jewish, and he liked throwing us some Hanukkah songs. And I'd be going, So Vivant, so. But, and I always like to say, a man having his voice change at puberty is possibly the most testing and trying thing that a person can go through at that age. And that's where you both look at me and hit me, right?
I mean, like, you can't.
I'm well aware that we have it easy.
A little bit, a little bit easier.
But yeah, so I really wanted to sing, and by the time I was in 8th grade, they were still having the boys sing the alto female parts, but I was all the way down here, and I dropped out, and then I didn't start again for a few years because we were doing musicals at school, and they were like, no, we actually need somebody who can sing that part, and I was happy to do so, and that got me started in the musical theater aspect, and then my senior year of high school, I took the guitar class. I had a guitar given to me as a gift, and I never continued with it. But I decided, there's a class. I got the guitar. I should give it a shot. And I learned all those basic chords. And for years, that's almost all I've ever used is basic guitar chords, the really folky stuff. But, if you know a few of those patterns, you can write a lot of songs.
You can write a lot, yeah.
But and then I wound up going to college in San Francisco where they had a lot of clubs where you can go off and do your songs and stuff like that. So as soon as I turned 21 and I was old enough, I started hitting those clubs, which are mostly gone now because real estate's too expensive there. All those little cool places where they'd have art galleries and little theaters and stuff like that, they cannot afford to be there, which is really a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. San Francisco is definitely, especially if someone that's really into music history, San Francisco was such like a hotbed for music in the 60s as well as STIs, but also but like it was
It's worse than that because I was STI, even sexually transmitted.
oh yeah, no, apparently that was really big in the Haight-Ashbury district.
No. In fact, we were just thinking about that because this is my second pandemic. I was in San Francisco in the theater community in the 1980s.
Right.
It was a really horribly sad thing. And,
Yeah.
I won't say that's what initially made me an ally, but it definitely solidified it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And
But
it's
yeah, there's some cheerful stuff to bring up. Anyway,
no,
but
no.
yeah, and it was about that time that I decided. I realized I was writing a lot of songs. I'm trying to write love songs, even though 18-year-old writing love songs can be pretty sappy. But there were a few artists who I would listen to, and I was like, wow, they're not writing love songs at all. Their stuff is really weird. They're just writing songs about anything, and I thought that was fantastic. I know Kate here's a huge Steely Dan fan,
Big
and
big time.
the best concert I ever saw was Steely Dan at Universal Amphitheater, right
There they
after
are.
Two Nature came out. Huh?
There they are on the wall.
Okay. I can't see it from here because it's a really tiny little.
A little small, but they're there.
But
They're hanging out.
I believe you.
I swear I'm a fan.
Yes. But yeah, their most conventional love song is probably Cousin Dupree, which is about incest. So
It is, yeah.
and everything else is pretty much just about whatever they
Actually,
think about writing about. And and other people like that would have been all the way. Tom Lehrer is.
yeah.
Yeah, and that man's still alive at 95 years old.
Still kicking it, yeah.
Up in Santa Cruz, not far from where I grew up. But yeah, this is a guy writing songs about poisoning pigeons in the park. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was brilliant and, inspired me to write songs about whatever and anything at all, which, I'm sure there are some people who wish that I hadn't. But because my early work could be really, really out there.
That's okay.
Yeah, we like it strange on Strange Grooves. So.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. So that being said, my most recent release, it's my third album. It's called Self-Titled Debut. Anybody get the joke at all?
Self-titled debut. Yeah.
I know when I say that, a lot of people go, whoosh. Yeah.
No. It took me a second, but I was like, yes. Well played. Well played.
But the idea was I was thinking about how I had a few friends who got record contracts in San Francisco. At that time, I never did, and I was thinking, well, that's some great songs. So 3-4 years ago, I decided to release mostly music that I had written at that time in the late 1980s, and in the style I was doing at the time, which was I would call it neo folk, where you have a strong acoustic bass, but you're still using the rock beat. And so my most recent album is a fake retro release because it's made to look like it was released in 1989. Even had kind of a Talking Heads design on the cover.
Yeah.
And so all but one of the songs was written at the time. There was another song I'd written recently that just fit in too well with that theme. So that's why we can now share with the world such wonderful songs as Space Dracula Mama is over. So,
great titles. Fantastic.
Yes. And it's actually a song about ecology.
Is that it's
I like that fact. So yeah.
Yeah. That is super cool. So I guess in terms of your songwriting, so we mentioned like there's influence of the Dan in there. I guess what are other artists that have influenced you or still influence you now?
Okay, I'm gonna throw some really unhip
Do it.
names out there. Because in the 70s, when all my friends were like, the Deadheads, we had a lot of Deadheads at my school, and I didn't even know what kind of music they played. I assumed with the design they had, they must be like some sort of really nasty heavy metal kind of sound. I didn't know they were folky as hell.
Mhm.
But no, I was listening to Kenny Rogers England Dan and John Ford Coley, the
Yep.
Captain and Neil, the Starland Vocal Band, a guy named Bobby Goldsboro, who I especially enjoyed because even though he was singing in a standard pop tuning, I could tell that he actually had a bass voice. And so that helped me a lot as far as learning how to sing pop style with a deep voice. But he's very much a tragically unhit person to mention for any artist.
Right.
And but the one person I really wanted to be like, and it was just never going to happen, was John Denver, because I just thought he was so cool, and
Yeah.
the fact that he was standing up for the environment, and it wasn't a photo op. Back then, if you stood up for the environment, people were like, "Oh, he wants to save the planet,"
Yeah.
you know, thought that was silly. And I think he looks pretty good in history now. But that was frustrating because John Denver sang in a clear high tenor. I do
Beautiful.
not sing in a clear high tenor, so I'd be trying to sing a stuff like going sunshine. It just is not going to work. But that was definitely a huge influence, was John Denver's music. But at
Yeah.
some point in the '80s, I started getting into the more freakier stuff, and I kind of credit that to Pat Benatar because she was doing pop and doing rock. Now it actually seems pretty soft rock when you listen to it again. But at the time, that was a good transition. And next thing you know, here I am listening to the Meat Puppets and the Violent
Right.
Femmes, who I think are just fantastic. Just trying to find a different direction, because your tastes change.
Definitely. From John Denver to the Meat Puppets. I love it.
And I'm not saying I don't write a soppy love song sometime, but boy, it's so hard to get the reaction you want because you'll write a
Yeah.
beautiful love song and you're thinking, wow, she's going to hear this and she's going to be, oh, now I see Greg. Now, the last reaction I got to one of my soppy love songs when I dared play it for her was, oh, very nice. Hey, did you have that CD I asked for?
Yeah.
Switch the subject.
Yeah.
That was nice. Cute. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
Though, I learned from something Carly Simon had said when she wrote You're So Vain. For the longest time, she would not tell us who it was written about.
No,
And
no.
everybody said, well, was it written about Warren Beatty? And Carly was like, not going to tell you. And then they said, was it about Mick Jagger? And she's like, oh, can't talk about that. And then I think she actually told us it was not about JT. She had some issues with him, but it wasn't vanity. And then years and years go by, and finally she puts out her autobiography. She says, I'm going to tell you who it's about. You know who it was about, right? It was Warren Beatty.
Yeah, it was Warren Beatty. I think didn't Mick Jagger sang background vocals on that song, I
Yeah.
think. So
But
vain.
all those years of waiting, and it turns out it's exactly who we
Who
thought it
you
was.
thought it was. Yeah.
And they asked Warren about it, happily married to one of my college theater department classmates for 30 years now. I did not know her, but apparently Annette and I passed halls at San
That's
Francisco
cool.
State.
Wow.
But his response was, oh, yeah, everybody knows it's about me. So I guess the timing was good on that one.
Right.
But
Yeah.
my point is, I learned if you're going to write a song about someone, you should make it all good, all flattering. Otherwise, she's not going to be happy. And that's kind of what Carly had said, that, for a song like that, you don't want to directly mention
Right.
who about.
Give it away. Yeah. That's true.
Very true, very true. So tell us a little bit about your acting and theater background. So how did you get into that? And was it did theater come first, or was it the music?
The theater definitely came first. And I'd always been happy to participate in anything the class had going on in terms of theater, but I'd never taken a class especially for that or auditioned for anything. But skip ahead to 1979. And I was having a rough year and a half. I was 15. My father had just passed away a year and a half before, and things were not going well at home. But I auditioned for my first show, which was The Matchmaker by Thornton Wilder, upon
Mhm.
which Hello Dolly was based. I played the barber at the very beginning, and all I do is sit there and shave the lead and go, "Hey, Mr. Vandergilda, you better sit still, or else, if I cut your throat, it'll be practically unintentional." I still remember my lines. And just being able to be somebody else for that period of time in rehearsal and
Right.
in the show was a great way for me to forget everything that was happening in life.
Going on. Yeah.
And that's why I stuck with it.
Yeah.
I wound up going on to theater school at San Francisco State, and that's a good place to study theater. It was a weird time to be there because everybody talks about the crime there now. Crime
Mhm.
was much worse back in the 80s. And I'm talking violent stuff. You
Really.
know, a friend of
Really?
mine getting shot at, another friend, he and his boyfriend being stabbed coming out of a bar, things like that.
Yeah.
And now we're worried about pickpockets and things like that, which I'm not crazy about. But
Yeah.
it was,
That just shows the polarity of the times. That, yeah.
Mm.
but because San Francisco is such a great artistic city, it was a good place to be because you have artsy folks of all types
Yeah.
there. It's not just the actors, singers, dancers. That's just where it gets started. You'll have people. I remember a girl at the St. Francis Cafe. She's got nothing but buttons all over her jacket, and apparently that's her thing. That's her art, wearing buttons
We're
on
in
her
buttons.
jacket.
Interesting.
Fits in perfectly in this town.
Do you find that, the artistic scene in San Francisco do you find that is it still there? And the reason why I ask is because we have some friends that are, that have lived in the area, and they often say that, especially over the last 10 years with the Silicon Valley tech boom,
Yeah.
gentrification,
Things
real
change.
estate, it's a lot of that is almost gone, though there's still pockets of it. And I guess from your perspective, if you've been there recently, what are your thoughts on the state of San
Yeah.
Francisco right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's gotten worse actually because the California Shakespeare Theater out in Orinda, they just closed because I'm guessing they couldn't get that necessary support you need from various corporations. And once that dries up,
That's a
that's
shame.
rough. And that was our biggest professional theater in the Bay Area, I think, along with ACT, which seems to be doing fine. But yeah, I've heard about that all over the country where theaters are closing because they can no longer get corporate sponsorship. But I'm sure the U.S. government will step right in and help everybody, right?
Maybe
Yeah, no,
renaming a place, but that would be about it.
yeah,
Mm.
but yeah,
Um,
I was especially. I'd heard that Ashland, that's our version of Stratford. You guys know about Stratford?
yep.
Yeah, and I've been there. It's wonderful. But Ashland was even talking about closing down. I think they've since recovered with a full season. But Oregon Shakespeare Festival is our, most prominent Shakespeare festival, and it would be a tragedy if we were to lose them. So yeah, no, it's not getting any better, and just starting up a new theater with so little space available at an affordable rate is going to be rough. It's happening in LA too, but LA is so huge that they can always push it farther out into the
Mm.
suburbs.
Right. Yeah. And you wonder too, it's like often when times are tough like this, and again, it's maybe you need to be on the ground, but I'm sure there's, creatives and, actors and artists that they're finding ways to make it work. And like I know we see it like and even in our small city in New Brunswick, right? When, rents are going up and gentrification's happening, it's like you find the spots, but you just got to you got to get creative and you got to know about them. So like it's oftentimes that's when great art happens, right? Is when there's a lot of, when there's adversity, right?
Yeah,
I think it's important too that people still have to advocate for these things, right? And like,
Mhm.
we have to, there's a reason why we're still doing Shakespeare plays
yeah,
in 2025, and it's the same with dance and the discipline of technique. And I kind of coined it up to like the last showgirl. I'm not sure if you guys have both seen the movie, but the idea of Pamela Anderson being like the last showgirl
oh
of that
yes,
show, and people are just like, oh, who cares? Like, people just want to see people doing the stupidest shit now. They don't care about the discipline and the technique that these people have gone in and made sure that they know their lines, they know their choreography. I think we also have to put it on our patrons and the eyeballs of ourselves as potential customers and as consumers of content to make sure that we're not missing the mark, so that we don't just get fed bullshit all the time.
hmm
We still want to go to operas, and we still want to go to Shakespearean plays and the ballet just as much as we want to go to the rock show at the local theater, but they have to still be erected for us to be able to continue to work in that industry, right? And I think that's so important, for people to continue to advocate for that.
and I think it's also there's an onus on the producers to, if they love Shakespeare, you got to find a way to bring the people.
Yeah,
Make
because
them
otherwise it'll
say,
die.
well, I've directed quite a few Shakespeare plays and acted,
Yeah.
but for a long time, I was like, I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to do it the way they would have done it. And
Yep.
they did it in modified street clothes. They would be the clothes of that day, but they'd always have fancier things that they wore to when they were performing on stage. So you wouldn't have confused them for somebody in ancient
No.
Greece or anything like that, but it would
Yeah.
still be a little bit nicer. So I tried that. And in LA, boy, it's always just friends of the cast members.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem there is that those gigs are called bringers. You'll get a gig either acting or with music. They'll say, "Can you bring a few friends?" And that's when I get kind of testy. And I'll be like, "I could give a crap if my friends come see it. I want people who
I
want to
want
see
people
it."
who are actually, who are actually going to come out, buy it, stream. Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
I don't have any friends.
Yeah. Just circle
But
jerking each other the whole time, right? And in the same silo, that doesn't help anybody.
then one day I had one of those,
Yeah.
bursts of inspiration. I had decided to do Romeo and Juliet in the style of Star Trek: The Original Series.
There you go.
Particular, I chose a
Wow.
very I chose like one episode. I think it was episode number 70. Let that be your last battlefield, where Lou Antonio and Frank Gorson are the last survivors of the Sharonians. The one's half black on this side, the other's half black on that side, and that's why they're trying to kill each other. So it was the 1960s parable,
Right.
the racial difficulties. And I thought, well, I'll just make the Capulets one group of Sharonians, and the Montagues another group, and then everybody else who's not a member of the family. Those are all crew members of the Enterprise who have beamed down to this planet to keep
Oh,
the
that's
peace.
fantastic. I love that.
But anyway, we filled that theater up for 3 months, which was nice because there have been so many shows where I was like, this is serious Shakespeare. People are going, yeah, great. Anyway, gonna be moving on. But and actually, you can see me in a Paramount documentary from that show. It's called Trekkies 2, and it's available on Paramount Plus.
Oh, I'm definitely watching that.
Add it to the watch list.
55 minutes in, they'll go to LA, and the very first part they do is they read the mail at Paramount Studios, which I think is wonderful. They're just taking all the really strange mail they get at the studio and reading it off. And then they go to our little theater and they say, and Greg Snyder and his group, they were doing Romeo and Juliet stuff. And then they went off to a folk music convention in LA. Do you guys know what folk music is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, science fiction folk. Yeah. Well, you guys are well versed in pop culture. I am impressed.
Listen, we try, right? Old souls, but we're in on the trends, right? That's why we travel so much, is to try to make sure that we kind of have our hand on what's actually happening. Otherwise, we're just duds.
Well, I like to say my pop culture credentials they're pretty good. I mean, have you guys ever heard of a Comedy Central show called Beat the Geeks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I was a geek.
Oh.
Contestants, mind you, I was a geek, so it means I went through their vetting to prove that I had a strange amount of knowledge. In my case, Saturday morning cartoons.
Right.
And I don't like to push that too much because I actually did not enjoy the experience. It was fairly cheaply done, and they were in such a hurry just to keep the cameras rolling that
you didn't get
they wouldn't cut for anything, and they never told me that. It would have been nice if they told me.
No, yeah.
But when I made a mistake and I was waiting for them to yell cut, camera's still rolling, and I'm like going, okay.
Yeah, reset, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not uncommon in those Comedy Central shows. They're usually done on the cheap and they just want to get it done.
Get it in, yeah. Get as much recorded in a couple days and pan it out and get it out. Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah?
When we were, chatting in Vegas, we got talking a little bit about something that you currently just worked on that we've all been watching. And it kind of picks up on something, with Seth Rogen in the new series in the studio about, him wanting to work on something, with teeth, with meat on the bones, and not just making the typical, kind of things. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience on that?
On which one? I'm sorry?
On the studio.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just a bit player background. But, we always say there is no small parts. I haven't seen the episode yet. I believe it's going to be episode number 9. But at some point, Bryan Cranston will be chasing Seth Rogen and Catherine Hahn through the Venetian.
Right.
And that's not the real story. The real story is the 3 people behind them talking about what they're having for lunch.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That's real, though. That's the reality of what was happening in that scene. That's what people want to see.
No, I will say in regards to episode 1, when they talk about the Kool-Aid movie, I want to see that film, the Martin
I want to
Scorsese
see it
version.
so bad. I think, Greg, you and I should just petition him to make it.
Do
Okay,
it.
we'll go make it ourselves. We'll make it a play if we
Fine.
have to. But I want to see that movie badly, and I think a lot of people do. It seems like it's something that kind of hit the nail for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I loved, I don't want to give it away for a lot of people who are watching it or haven't watched it yet, but just the idea of just not creating bullshit anymore and just trying to respect the industry and respect scripts, respect each other, to actually leave your ego at the door, whether you're, a director, whether you're the studio guy, you don't be a cringe to be around, and don't be a douchebag. I really liked that part of what I've been watching so far. And, when I hear about how things are in the 80s or losing theaters and stuff like that, I think that this is why it's important that shows like the studio have been created, because it shows the hustle and bustle of it. It shows where we're losing some of that classic, creation of historical films. And I recently, have you guys watched the new Black Mirror yet?
No, you told me about it. I feel like I've got.
There's a new episode in the new Black Mirror where essentially there's these old studio houses that are, they're about to fall by the wayside, and these producers, directors go in and they say, hey, we want to remake some of these classic movies. And well, the actors have passed, we're not sure. So the whole premise of it is that they've AI'd the entire set. They put somebody in through AI to be the live actor with all of these people, so they can make as many versions of Romeo and Juliet with as many actors as they want.
Yeah.
Right. And it's until they finish the last basically verbiage, that's how they get out of the AI. And if they don't finish the script, they never get out of the AI. But it's this sense of, what are we trying to create? Are we just trying to create crap just to get it in and record 2 or 3 days and put it out on Netflix and it's over? Or are we trying to create the Casablancas of the world? Are we trying to create things that actually had a bit of teeth, right? So
Yeah,
as I find the studio, I find it actually hits on a nerve for a lot of creative people to not do half-ass shit,
Yeah. And with me, in terms of the stuff I write for the stage, because I've had a few plays produced, and I think I mentioned that one of the reasons I would like to go to New York is I got a musical, really needs to be on stage. But theater is just so good about having an ambiguous ending. Like my best film for that is Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, because Jimmy Stewart, he's coming into town saying, but the law is not about those guns, it's about these books right here. That's where the law is. John Wayne's like, well, you gotta have a gun. And at the end of the film, I am uncomfortably thinking they were both right. Because I didn't decide with Jimmy Stewart's point of view about how the law should be in the book. And then
that's true.
John Wayne and John Ford, the director, definitely made their case. So if I can leave a film or a play just going, or another one of my favorite, it's actually a French Canadian play called Bonjour la Bonjour. You guys know that one?
No.
It's by an artist called Michel Tremblay, and it's about a brother and sister who are in love. And you also see their other 3 sisters and their father and their aunts, and they're actually the only 2 nice people in the show. So
to the music of Steely Dan. It's the instrumental to My Cousin Dupree. Don't worry.
There you go.
That's what it's called.
In my case, I'm touching what I think is the most uncomfortable subject at all. I wrote a musical about nuclear war, and I set it in the 1960s, and it all boiled down to the Cuban Missile Crisis in October of 1962. And I was looking at how it had followed up, and there was a date, November 24th, 1962, when the Russians and the Americans actually signed a few treaties. I don't know why they were doing that on a Saturday, but they were. They signed a few treaties and said, hey, let's not kill each other. And that's when things started to settle down. Now I thought, what if on November 24th, 1962, instead of things getting better, they decided to press the button and there was a nuclear war? So in my story, we pick it up in 1963, and it's a musical about a small town called Paradise, California, which really does exist. And they are trying to somehow make it, despite the fact that all large cities have been destroyed, while singing and dancing and giving us jazz hands. And the real cool kicker is, you know what else happened on November 24th, 1962?
What was that?
That's the day I showed up in the world.
Oh,
sweet.
you're
That's super
1962
cool.
baby.
Yeah,
That's
so I'm still officially a baby boomer by about a
Yeah,
year.
that's what I always tell my parents. Like, they're like, we're Gen X. I'm like, no, you're not. You're 62.
Yeah.
Boomer.
Well, I just forget after that, just after baby boomer, what else is there?
Well, we'll come see that play. You let us know when it's debuting, and we will be there.
Just need a couple $1 million. So if anybody out there wants to invest in a Broadway musical, you talk to me.
There we go.
I'll even let them produce.
Disney.
I think it'd be a nice Disney show, but make it a little more.
I'm a weird ideas person, but here it is. Have you seen the show Paradise on Disney?
Yeah, I saw the first episode. Yeah, and
So
that's why I'm like wondering, do I need to change the title of this now?
No, but I think if you know somebody there, you need to show them your script right away, because nobody's written it. You already have. And the fact that they just made a show that people are actively watching about a potential like this happening and them going underground and building a whole town around a nuclear explosion actually happening, they would probably actualize this faster than you try to fundraise it. So I think that it would be a pretty lucrative thing to put in front of someone right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to try and push the idea that, yes, post-apocalyptic fun is hip now.
It is. People love it. People love doomsday.
I came up with another title for it. I was going to call it Gehenna, but every time I said that, everybody said, huh?
Yeah, well.
Gehenna has like a city near Jerusalem, which somehow some religious folks think it means hell. It does not mean hell, but the weather is a bit hot. But I thought that'd be a cool name for it. But I think I'm abandoning that because I've gotten way too many hoes from that title. So now I'm changing it to like Paradise, California, seeing if that helps. If something else comes up that's better, that's great,
Strange Brew, if you have suggestions, leave them in the comments.
Yes.
Absolutely. And if you want to fund Greg's play or want to check out his music or just see what he's up to, all the exciting things he's up to, Greg, where can people find you? Where can people follow you?
Well, you can go to Spotify. That's always nice. There's always GgregSnyder.com, though I am rebuilding it, so it's a little. It needs some work right now. I'm still trying to figure out WordPress. It's not the same as those old "what you see is what you get" programs. I used to do that professionally. I used to be an SEO guy as part of my survival gig, and it's making tons of money. And the current stuff is just totally confusing me. But so it's up there, and hopefully eventually I'll have it adjusted enough that I can show you all my upcoming gigs or releases or stuff like that. And also, if you want to hear my musical, it's been 100% recorded with fully orchestrated background music. Some of it was MIDI, some of it was live play. I mixed it together, and actors stepping into the roles. And you can find that at paradisemusical.xyz.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for taking the time to chat with us.
Might I sing a song to send you out?
Absolutely. Yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
This one's about perfect. Because it's one of those songs that you can sing on a camera on a phone or just picking up the guitar and it'll work. I don't need the band for this one. And this is called Amber's Song. I was in LA and I met a young flight attendant. And when I mentioned that I did music, she goes, "Oh, do you have something you could play?" And I actually had a full glove compartment full of CDs, but instead I said, "No, I don't. But if you want, I can come by your hotel and bring my guitar and I can play some new stuff and get some feedback." Now that's the biggest line in the world, right? But it's a good one because they love that. But she said, "Yeah." And I was thinking, okay. She said, "Yeah." I thought, let's raise the stakes. Let's write a song for her. Problem being is I have to write it very quickly. And I don't know a lot about Amber. But maybe I can take another song I wrote for somebody else and just switch the name around and all the circumstances. And I don't think anybody will notice, right? Not at all. So this is called Amber's Song. I just wrote this song because I'm thinking about you, thinking of the beauty I see in your eyes of brown. You probably think it's 'cause you're hot, but I swear it goes beyond. Though I can't deny the flaxen grace in your hair of brown. If you leave me now, there's so much I'll be losing. So please stick around and love me, Amber. Your figure is so awesome. I think it's so all that. I really dig your booty because it is so trim. The fashion sense you have really makes me want to flirt. Babe, you look so wonderful in that flight attendant's uniform. The sweetness of your soul really puts my heart in fusion. So please stick around and love me, Amber. And the greatest part is you can make it work for anybody. For example, for Charisse. I just wrote this song because I'm thinking about you, thinking of the beauty I see in your eyes of Hazel.
Yeah.
All right, Hazel. You probably think it's because you're hot, but I swear it goes beyond. Though I can't deny your flaxen hair of teal. Is that teal? Or just blue? How about aqua? No? Yeah, sure, something like that. And of course, if you take it serious, nobody will know. You're just going to see it like, if you leave me now, there's so much I'll be losing. So please stick around and love me. Charisse and Kate.
We love that. Thank you so much.
And I just wrote that
Strange
now for
Crew,
you guys. That was not written for somebody else, I swear.
I appreciate that. And Strange
Yeah.
Crew, if you're listening and watching, please go check out Greg's tunes. Let us know what more you want to hear from Greg. Maybe he'll join us again for a part 2.
You never know.
And we'll hope to see you in the future. Maybe at a play, at a gig. Maybe we'll meet up at the Dead Show. Who knows? We'll see. But thank you so
Bible
much
study,
for joining us.
possibly
The
Bible study. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. We hope you have an amazing day, and we can't wait. We'll be in touch around your episode, and we hope that you have the best time ever. And thank you so much for hanging out with us and our crew today. We're excited.
All right, take off, eh?
All right. See you later, eh?
Yes.
Until next time, Strange Crew, keep it strange.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you.